Alex, you aced the test again. Mind walking us through this math problem? Watching a dozen classmates swarm around me, I let out a cold chuckle. My past self was such a fool. A few sweet words from these people would send me spinning. Volunteering as a class tutor every afternoon while my own study time evaporated. And where did that get me? They all got into top-tier universities, while I, the former top student of our grade, ended up at a third-rate college in this lifetime. I won't make the same mistake again. Sorry, I don't have time. September 1st, 2008, first day of senior year. The moment I opened my eyes, I almost thought I was dreaming. The familiar 6-person dormitory, the familiar bunk beds, the familiar sounds of classmates packing their belongings, the same 280 days until college entrance exams countdown poster still hung on the wall. I'd truly been reborn. Reborn 16 years earlier. Back to that life-altering senior year of high school. Alex, you're awake. Hurry up and get ready. We've got a class meeting soon, my roommate Jesse urged while packing his bag. As I sat up, memories from my past life came flooding back. In my previous life, I was a top student, consistently ranking in the top 3 since freshman year. By sophomore year's second semester, I secured first place, and everyone expected me to get into Tsinghua or Peking University. But everything changed when I entered senior year. Ms. Wang, our homeroom teacher, seated me at the very back of the classroom under the guise of saving better spots for other students. Meanwhile, she subtly started assigning me to tutor classmates. Alex excels academically and should help his peers improve together. Individual excellence isn't true excellence. Collective excellence is. See how selfless Alex is. Never hoards knowledge. That's what a model student looks like. Those grandiose words went straight to my head, making my past self feel like I was doing something truly noble. Every day after school, I'd stay behind tutoring classmates for free, covering nearly every subject from math and physics to chemistry and English. These sessions would last 2 to 3 hours, leaving me barely reaching my dorm by 10 p.m. Back then, I was smugly proud, considering helping others something to boast about. It wasn't until I saw my college entrance exam results that the sheer stupidity hit me like a ton of bricks. Every student I tutored achieved outstanding results. Class President Sienna got into Peking University. Academic Officer Tatum was admitted to Tsinghua University. And even Landon, who used to be an average performer, made it into a top-tier 985 institution. Meanwhile, I, the former top student of our grade, only scored 512 points, barely meeting the cutoff for a third-tier college. It was then that I realized I'd poured all my energy into helping others, leaving my own study time severely compromised. While others made remarkable under my guidance, I remained stagnant or even regressed. The cruel irony. When news of my poor Gaokao results spread, all those classmates who used to flock around calling me Bro Alex or the genius gradually distanced themselves. How did Alex perform so poorly? And we actually thought he was some hotshot. Good thing we didn't fully rely on him. This is the reward I got from my past life for 16 years. These memories have been like nails piercing my heart, each recollection reopening the wound. Now that fate has given me a second chance, I swear I won't repeat the same mistakes. Alex, what are you spacing out for? Come on, homeroom's starting, Jessie said, patting my shoulder. I took a deep breath, steadied myself, and followed my roommates toward the classroom. Classroom 13 of grade 3, my familiar second home. The blackboard bore bold characters reading Go Senior 3. Above a packed schedule, stacks of review materials covered the lectern, the air thick with academic tension. I walked to my seat, third row by the window. In my past life, this very spot marked the beginning of my downward spiral. Class, the new semester begins. We're officially senior year students now, announced homeroom teacher Ms. Wang as she entered, commencing her opening address. Ms. Wang, in her 40s, wore gold-rimmed glasses and always spoke in measured tones. She earned the nickname Old Fox at school for her knack of leveraging student dynamics to manage the class. This senior year will define your futures. I expect you to support each other's growth. Ms. Wang's gaze swept the classroom before settling on me, especially our top students. They must lead by example. I recognized her coded message. Just like last time, she'd publicly praise me before cornering me into tutoring duties. Right on cue. Ms. Wang cleared her throat. Alex has been our academic role model. Top scorer last semester. Others should emulate him. And Alex should proactively assist struggling classmates. The entire class had their eyes fixed on me, some with admiration, some with expectation, and others with envy. In my past life, I would have awkwardly nodded and muttered something modest in this situation. But this time, il faut silence. I stared blankly at the blackboard, completely tuning out Ms. Wang's words. Alex. Ms. Wang sounded surprised as she called my name again. I turned my head slowly and said calmly, Teacher, I believe everyone should take responsibility for their own learning. Helping each other is fine, but it shouldn't become an obligation. The classroom fell silent instantly. Everyone stared at me in shock, including Ms. Wang. This was completely out of character for Alex. Everyone knew him as gentle and humble, the kind of person who'd never say such things. Alex, what do you mean by that? Class President Sienna spoke up first, her voice laced with disapproval. Helping each other is basic decency among classmates. Exactly. What's wrong with sharing your knowledge since you're doing so well? Study committee member Tatum chimed in. I let out a cold laugh. I'd heard these exact lines far too many times in my past life. Morality. I turned to face them. Then tell me, how do you plan to repay my kindness? Repay? Sienna froze momentarily. Since when do classmates expect repayment for helping each other? Isn't that just common decency? Common decency? My voice rose sharply. Since when? Why should I freely give my time and energy to you people? The classroom atmosphere grew palpably tenser. Teacher Wang frowned and said, Alex, that's not the right mindset. As a top student in our class, you have an obligation to help your classmates. It's about responsibility and stepping up. Obligation. Responsibility. I stood up, looking Teacher Wang straight in the eye. Tell me, is that written in the school rules? Or are you saying good grades automatically make me everyone's free tutor? My words left Teacher Wang speechless, her expression darkening. Alex, what kind of attitude is this? She raised her voice. As a class leader, you're supposed to set an example. Excuse me, teacher, when exactly was I appointed as class monitor? I asked coldly. Teacher Wang was completely speechless at this point. Truth be told, I'd never held any class leadership position. Teacher Wang only made this demand because she wanted to use me to boost the class's overall performance and gain more recognition at school. Seeing Teacher Wang's embarrassment, a few students couldn't help but snicker in the classroom. But more of my classmates were shooting me hostile glances. Alex, you've changed. The girl in front of me muttered under her breath. Exactly. The old Alex was so much better. What made you so selfish now? Think you're so great with your good grades. Looking down on us. Huh. These gossiping voices left me completely unfazed. In my past life, I cared too much about others' opinions and fell into traps step by step. This time, I live only for myself. Teacher Wang took a deep breath, struggling to control his emotions as he said, Alex, take your seat first. Let's continue with the class meeting. I sat back down, secretly sneering in my heart. This is just the beginning. For the next hour, Ms. Wang thoroughly explained the senior year study plan and various guidelines. She deliberately rearranged seating under the noble pretense of top students assisting struggling learners. Under her arrangement, high-achieving students were paired with underperformers to provide immediate academic support. In my past life, this policy landed me in the back row, surrounded by the class's weakest students. That's when my nightmare truly began. But this time, when Teacher Wang announced the decision, I immediately raised my hand in objection. Teacher, I have a concern. What concern? Teacher Wang asked impatiently. I think this arrangement is unfair. Everyone should have the right to choose their own seat instead of being assigned forcibly. Besides, high-achieving students also need quiet study environments. Constant interruptions would actually hinder their academic performance. Many of my classmates nodded in agreement with what I said. Truth be told, I wasn't the only top student assigned to tutor struggling classmates. Others resented it, too. They just didn't dare speak up. Alex is right. We need to focus on our own studies, too. Exactly. Why should we be burdened with extra responsibilities? Teacher, this arrangement is truly unfair. Seeing other students backing me up, Ms. Wang's expression darkened further. But as the homeroom teacher, she couldn't afford to lose authority in front of her students. Since everyone has objections, we'll postpone this arrangement for now, she said coldly. But I expect high-achieving students to show more initiative in helping struggling classmates. This demonstrates both moral character and self-cultivation. With that, she shot me a piercing glare, her eyes burning with anger and resentment. I met her gaze unflinchingly, thinking to myself, this is just the beginning. Ms. Wang, in this lifetime, I won't let you take advantage of me again. After the class meeting ended, students began filing out of the classroom. A few classmates I usually got along with gathered around, including my roommate Jessie. What's gotten into you today? Alex, Jessie asked with genuine concern. You're usually so easygoing. It's nothing. Just felt some things needed to be said clearly. I replied flatly, but you'll piss off the teacher this way. Another classmate warned. Mr. Wang holds grudges. You'd better watch your step. I just smiled without responding. In my past life, I was truly afraid of offending Professor Wang, which made me endure everything passively and ultimately harm myself. But this life is different. Having already experienced failure once, I know exactly where the line is. More importantly, with 16 years of future memories and experience, I have no reason to fear Professor Wang's retaliation. Come on, let's head back to the dorm and rest. We've got evening self-study later. I patted Jessie on the shoulder and walked out of the classroom first. The whispers of my classmates drifted from behind me, but I couldn't care less anymore. This time around, I'm living for myself. No one's going to take advantage of me ever again. During evening study hours, the classroom was so quiet you could only hear pages turning and pens scratching across paper. Sitting in the third row, I was fully absorbed in solving math problems. These were actual college entrance exam questions I'd encountered in my past life. Back then, I'd wasted all my time tutoring others and never got to systematically work through the set. Reattempting them now felt completely different. With 16 extra years of life experience and my retained high school senior knowledge, my problem-solving approach had become remarkably clearer. Just as I was reveling in the thrill of cracking problems, a tentative voice came from behind me. Alex, could you help me with this physics problem? Without turning around, I kept working on my math problems. No time. Just take a quick look. It's really simple. The voice carried a pleading tone. I put down my pen and turned to see who was speaking. It was Landon from the seat behind me, a middling student who usually ranked around 15th in our class. In my past life, Landon left a deep impression on me. He was one of the first students who came to me for tutoring, and also the best at playing cute and pitiful. Whenever he encountered difficult problems, he'd beg for help in that pathetic little voice, and past me always softened and gave in to his requests. The irony, Landon scored 618 in the college entrance exam and got admitted to Shaman University, while I, his tutor, only managed 512. Looking back now, it's absolutely ridiculous. Landon, you can ask the teacher or other classmates if you're stuck on problems. But I'm sorry, I genuinely don't have time right now. My tone was calm yet firm. Landon froze momentarily, clearly taken aback by the refusal. But you've always helped me before. That was then. This is now. I turned back to my work. We're seniors now. Everyone needs to take responsibility for their own future. Landon seemed about to protest further, but seeing I'd already dismissed him, he reluctantly turned away. But I knew this micro wouldn't end so simply. Sure enough, within 10 minutes, someone else came looking for me. This time it was class monitor Sienna. Sienna was the undisputed campus goddess, beautiful, academically brilliant, and wildly popular among the boys. In my past life, I'd even nursed a slight crush on her, which is why I never hesitated whenever she asked for my help. Alex, could you help me with this chemistry problem? Sienna approached my desk with saccharine sweetness dripping from her voice. I glanced up at her without the slightest ripple of emotion. In my past life, I'd fallen for her little act, mistaking it for genuine interest. Only after finals did I learn she'd had a boyfriend all along, keeping it quiet to avoid distractions. To her, I was just a free tutor, nothing more than a convenient tool. Sienna, I told you I don't have time, I replied coldly. Sienna clearly wasn't expecting rejection, a flicker of embarrassment crossing her face. Alex, what's gotten into you? You're usually so helpful. That was before. Now I believe everyone should learn to solve problems independently. Setting down my pen, I met her gaze. Sienna, you're top of the class. This problem shouldn't stump you. Think it through, and the answer will come. Sienna bit her lip, irritation flashing in her eyes. But I genuinely can't figure it out. Just help me this once. We're classmates. Shouldn't we support each other? Help each other? I scoffed. When have you ever helped me? That left Sienna completely speechless. Truth be told, from freshman year till now, it's always been me helping others one-sidedly. No one's ever lifted a finger for me. Seeing Sienna at a loss for words, I pressed on. If you're really stuck, ask the teacher. Getting paid to answer questions is in their job description, not mine. With that, I buried myself back into my work, ignoring her completely. Sienna stood frozen for a long moment before slinking back to her seat without another word. Several classmates witnessed the whole scene. Soon, an odd tension filled the classroom. Students began whispering among themselves, casting occasional sideways glances in my direction. I know exactly what they're gossiping about, but I couldn't care less. In my past life, I cared too much about others' opinions and got trapped by moral blackmail. This time around, my future is the only thing that matters. Before evening study ended, 2 more classmates asked for my help. Both got turned down without hesitation. When class dismissed, the classroom atmosphere had grown palpably tense. My classmates' gazes held confusion, resentment, though some eyes sparkled with thoughtful contemplation. Alex, hold up, called Tatum, our class academic monitor, just as I was packing my bag to head back to the dorm. Tatum ranked second only to me academically, often assigned to tutor classmates. In our past life, we'd gotten along well, frequently studying together. What's up? I paused mid-motion to ask. Tatum glanced around to make sure most classmates had left before leaning in and whispering, Alex, I think you made some really good points today. I was surprised. I hadn't expected Tatum to back me up. Tatum continued, honestly, I've had enough. Too. After evening study sessions, there's always a crowd bombarding me with questions, leaving me no time for my own assignments. I want to say no sometimes, but I worry about coming across as selfish. So, what do you think now? I asked curiously. Your actions today gave me an epiphany, Tatum said earnestly. Why should we bear this obligation? We're not teachers getting paid. What right do others have to demand our time for free? I nodded. So, what's your plan? Following your lead, rejecting this meaningless guilt trip, Tatum stated firmly. Senior year is crucial for everyone. I won't sacrifice my future just to help others. Tatum's words sent warmth flooding through my heart. It seems my actions have actually made some positive impact. At least Tatum is starting to realize how serious the situation is. Let's work hard together. I patted him on the shoulder for our own futures. Yeah, let's do this. Tatum nodded vigorously. Just as we were about to leave the classroom, our homeroom teacher, Ms. Wong, suddenly walked in. Her face darkened. She clearly heard about what happened during evening study session. Alex, Tatum, stay behind. We need to talk, Ms. Wong said sternly. Tatum and I exchanged glances, both recognizing the same resignation in each other's eyes. Looks like this battle was just getting started. Take a seat. Teacher Wong pointed at the chair and stood firmly behind the lectern. I've heard from other students that you refused to help your classmates today. Is that true? Yes, I admitted bluntly. Teacher, we believe this mandatory assistance isn't reasonable. Mandatory? Teacher Wong raised her voice. Who forced you? Isn't helping each other what classmates should do? Teacher, may I ask who to find this should? I countered. The Ministry of Education, the school, or perhaps you. My words left Teacher Wong momentarily speechless. I pressed on. If this is truly something we should be doing, why isn't it written into school regulations? Why isn't it offered as a formal course? Why aren't we being compensated accordingly? That's twisted logic. Teacher Wang flushed with anger. Students should support each other. That's basic moral decency. Moral decency. I scoffed. Then tell me, teacher, if someone sacrifices their own study time to help others and ends up with worse grades, doesn't that qualify as stupidity? How could you say that? Helping others is a virtue. Virtue. I stood up, looking straight into Teacher Wang's eyes. Teacher, I'd like to ask you something. If I fail my college entrance exams because I spent all my time helping others, and consequently missed my dream university, will those classmates I helped take responsibility for my failure? Teacher Wang was stunned. I pressed on. Would they give me their college acceptance letters, or continue supporting me throughout their lives? The classroom fell completely silent. Teacher Wang's lips parted, but no words came out because she already knew the answer. No one will take responsibility for my failures. Those classmates I've helped will only credit their own efforts for their success, never remembering my contributions. The cruel irony is they might even turn around and mock my failure. That's just how things are. Teacher, I believe everyone should take responsibility for their own life. I said calmly, I don't mind occasionally helping classmates, but I refuse to be guilt-tripped. I have my own goals and dreams. I won't sacrifice my future for so-called virtue. As I finished speaking, I felt an enormous weight lift from my chest. I've kept these words bottled up for 16 years in my past life, and today I finally spoke them aloud. Teacher Wang stared at me, her eyes filled with shock and anger. She clearly never expected an 18-year-old student to utter something so profound and cutting. After a long pause, she finally spoke slowly. Alex, I believe there's something wrong with your way of thinking. I'll contact your parents to have them properly educate you. Whatever, I replied indifferently, then turned to leave. Just as I reached the doorway, Ms. Wang added one last remark. Alex, you'll regret this. I paused mid-step and glanced back at her. That's where you're wrong, ma'am. With that, I walked out of the classroom without looking back. Behind me, I heard Tatum's hurried footsteps catching up. In the hallway, Tatum caught up with me, looking impressed. Alex, that was brilliant just now. How do you come up with these things? Because you haven't tasted failure yet, I answered silently in my heart, but outwardly, I just smiled. Just said what came to mind. Let's head back to the dorm. We've got class tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow's another school day. In this lifetime, I'm dedicating all my time and energy to myself. I will get into the best university and fulfill dreams left unachieved in past lives. Nothing and nobody will stand in my way. The next morning, I sensed something peculiar the moment I stepped into the classroom. My classmates' gazes lingered on me longer than usual, and the whispers were far more frequent. Clearly, last night's incident had already spread. I walked to my seat unfazed, catching snippets of hushed conversations along the way. Heard Alex really push Mr. Wang's buttons yesterday. No way. He's usually such a quiet guy. Sienna asked for his help and got turned down. That's just cold. Actually, he's got a point. Why should we tutor people for free? Exactly. It's not like he owes anyone anything. But classmates should help each other out. There's a difference between helping someone and being taken advantage of. The discussions revealed divided opinions among classmates. Some supported me, others opposed, while a few remained neutral observers. I settled into my seat and pulled out the English passage for morning recitation. It was an environmental protection article I'd memorized thoroughly in my past life. So, reviewing it now came effortlessly, just as I was absorbed in reviewing. Clara, the girl sitting in front of me, turned around. Alex, are you really not going to help our classmates anymore? She whispered. Clara was one of the quieter girls in class, usually speaking little and maintaining above-average grades. In my past life, she'd often come to me with questions, too, though not as frequently as others. Why should I? I countered. Because we're all classmates. Clara replied hesitantly, her voice lacking conviction. And you're so good at academics. Helping others wouldn't cost you anything. Right. What wouldn't it affect? I set down my book and looked at her intently. Clara, Let me ask you. If I spend 2 hours every afternoon explaining problems to classmates, what could I have done with that time instead? Clara pondered before answering. Preview lessons, review material, work on practice problems. Exactly. I nodded. Now tell me, would those 2 hours be better spent advancing your own understanding or rehashing other people's questions? Clara fell into deep thought. I continued. And have you ever considered this? If people keep asking me questions every day, forcing me to constantly interrupt my study flow to address their issues, wouldn't that compromise my own learning efficiency? Well, Clara hesitated. That does seem like it would have an impact. What's more important? My tone turned serious. If I end up sacrificing my own grades because I spent all my time helping others, ultimately failing to get into my dream university, would those I've helped take responsibility for my failure? Well, Clara hesitated. It probably would affect you. So, if no one's going to take responsibility for my failure, why should I take this risk? I asked. Clara remained silent for a long moment before finally saying, I never thought about these things. It's never too late to start, I said, patting her shoulder. Clara, we all have our own lives and dreams. I don't mind helping classmates occasionally, but I can't sacrifice my future for others. Clara nodded thoughtfully before turning away. Just then, the school bell rang for class. First period was math. The teacher, Mr. Chun, was a middle-aged man in his 50s with extensive teaching experience. Mr. Chun entered the classroom and wrote today's topic on the blackboard, applications of derivatives. This concept was very familiar to me. I'd mastered it thoroughly in my previous life, with 16 additional years of life experience. My understanding of mathematics had deepened even further. Today, we'll explore how derivatives help find function extrema, began Mr. Chun. Can anyone tell me when a function reaches its maximum or minimum values? Several students raised their hands, but Mr. Chen's gaze settled on me. Alex, your answer, please. I stood up and responded clearly. For continuous functions on closed intervals, extrema can only occur at interval endpoints or critical points. Good, nodded Professor Chen. Now, how do we use derivatives to find extrema of functions? Take the derivative of the function, set it equal to 0 to find critical points, then determine their nature using either the second derivative test or observing sign changes in the first derivative. My answer was thorough. Professor Chen smiled approvingly. Excellent response. It seems Alex has mastered this material quite well. Throughout the entire lecture, I accurately answered every question Professor Chen posed. This drew envious glances from my classmates. After class, a few students who usually struggled with grades gathered around. Alex, I didn't quite get step 3 in that example problem. Could you go over it again? Alex, how do you solve that practice question in the textbook? Alex, could you explain that evaluation method you mentioned in more detail? Facing these requests, I replied calmly, you can ask Mr. Chen about these questions. He explains them more professionally than I do. But the teacher isn't here right now. Then wait until he returns or visit his office after class. Come on, Alex, just help us out. It's really simple. If it's that simple, you can figure it out yourselves. I started packing my bag, ready to leave the classroom. Alex, you've really changed. One of my classmates said disapprovingly. Yes, I've changed. I paused mid-motion and turned to face them. I'd become more rational, more capable of looking out for myself. With that, I walked straight out of the classroom. In the hallway, I ran into Ms. Wang, my homeroom teacher. A flicker of displeasure crossed her face when she saw me. Alex, she called out to me. What is it? Teacher. I stopped in my tracks. I've contacted your parents to come to school this afternoon. Ms. Wang said coldly. We need to have a serious talk about your recent behavior. I chuckled inwardly. In my past life, Teacher Wang had pulled the same stunt, trying to pressure me through my parents. But things were different now. With an adult's mindset, I wouldn't be intimidated by such childish tactics. Understood, teacher, I replied calmly. I'll let them know. Teacher Wang had expected me to be nervous or scared, but my composed reaction clearly took her by surprise. Aren't you worried? She couldn't help asking. Worried about what? I retorted. That you tell my parents? Teacher, I haven't broken any school rules or done anything wrong. I simply declined some unreasonable demands. Unreasonable? Teacher Wong raised her voice. How is helping classmates unreasonable? Teacher, does the school require top students to provide free tutoring? I looked her straight in the eye. If so, please show me the policy. If not, then my choice stands as reasonable. Teacher Wong was left speechless by my question. Indeed, there's no such requirement in any of the school's rules or regulations. She did this purely out of self-interest, trying to use me to boost the class's overall grades. Seeing her at a loss for words, I continued. Furthermore, teacher, I want you to understand something. My refusal to give free tutoring doesn't mean I don't care about my classmates. If anyone faces difficulties in life and needs help, I'll still lend a hand. But studying is each person's own responsibility. It shouldn't be pushed onto others. With that, I turned and walked away. Mr. Wong was left standing alone in the hallway, his expression shifting between gloom and uncertainty. The last class in the afternoon was homeroom. As usual, this session was typically dedicated to discussing class micros or ideological education. Today's homeroom theme was crystal clear: unity, mutual aid, and collective progress. It was obvious this arrangement was Teacher Wong's deliberate response to my recent rebellious behavior. Class, today we're going to discuss an important question, said Mr. Wong from the podium, his gaze lingering subtly in my direction. How should we balance personal interests with collective interests during our studies? The classroom fell silent. Everyone understood exactly who this question was directed at. After a few seconds, class monitor Sienna raised her hand. Teacher, I believe personal interests should yield to collective interests, she declared firmly. We're one class. We should stand united and help each other. Top students especially should set good examples and help those struggling to improve together. Her words were clearly directed at me. After speaking, she even deliberately glanced my way. Teacher Wong nodded approvingly. Sienna made excellent points. Would anyone else like to share their thoughts? Several more classmates raised their hands to speak, mostly echoing Sienna's view that students should help each other rather than being selfish. The class meeting's atmosphere was growing, increasingly hostile toward me. But I wasn't the least bit flustered, because I knew truth often lies with the minority. Finally, Mr. Wong turned his gaze to me. Alex, what are your thoughts? I rose slowly, scanning the faces of every classmate in the room. Teacher, classmates, I'd like to ask everyone a question. My voice was calm yet carried undeniable conviction. Would any of you here be willing to share half your college entrance exam scores with someone else? The classroom fell silent instantly. I continued. For example, if you could score 600 points but chose to give 100 points to a classmate who could only manage 400, would you do it so you both end up with 500? No one responded. Why the silence? I chuckled. Isn't this exactly what you call unity, mutual aid, and collective progress? Sienna stood up and retorted, how can these be the same? Academic grades aren't transferable. True, grades can't be transferred. I nodded, but time can. When I dedicate my self-improvement hours to helping others boost their scores, isn't that essentially transferring academic success indirectly? This analogy left many in the room speechless. I continued. Moreover, have you considered this? If I spend all my time helping others, and my own grades suffer, would I still be capable of assisting you? Well, Sienna stumbled over her words. What's more important? My tone turned grave. Is that everyone here, myself included, comes from ordinary families? The college entrance exam might be our only shot at changing our destinies. Given that, do you really think I should sacrifice my future for so-called collective interests? The classroom fell dead silent because I'd struck a raw nerve in everyone's heart. For most children from ordinary families, the college entrance exam is indeed the most crucial opportunity to change their fate. Under such circumstances, no one would likely give up their own interests. I scanned the room before settling my gaze on Teacher Wong. Teacher, may I ask, if your own daughter faced the same choice, what would you advise her to do? Teacher Wong's expression darkened because she knew the answer. Had it been her own daughter, She'd never have let her waste time tutoring others. I think these are two separate micers, she replied hesitantly. Separate micers? I scoffed. Teacher, in your heart, shouldn't your daughter and us students be equally important? The word struck Teacher Wang's raw nerve. Her lips parted, but no rebuttal came. I continued. What I want to make clear is that I've never objected to classmates helping each other. If someone occasionally needs guidance, I'm happy to assist. But I refuse to be guilt-tripped into taking responsibilities that aren't mine. Everyone has their own path to walk and dreams to pursue. I can't sacrifice my future for someone else's success. That's not selfishness. That's wisdom. After saying this, I sat back down. The classroom remained eerily silent. Many classmates were deep in thought, their worldviews visibly shaken by my words. Teacher Wang stood on the podium, her face ashen. She clearly hadn't anticipated that an 18-year-old student could articulate such profound and powerful words. After a long pause, she finally managed to say, "Alex, your views are far too radical." Radical? I stood up and countered, "Teacher, could you specify what's radical about my stance? I'm simply taking responsibility for my own future. This attitude of yours will disrupt class unity. Teacher, true unity is built on mutual respect and equality, not on unconditional sacrifice from one side." I said calmly, "If a group has to exploit its members' interests to sustain itself, does such a group even deserve to exist?" Mr. Wang was completely stumped by my question. Just then, the class dismissal bell rang. Students filed out of the classroom slowly, many clearly still pondering our earlier discussion. I packed my bag and was about to leave when Tatum, our class monitor, approached me. "Alex, that was brilliantly said," he whispered. "You got my full support." Soon after, several more classmates came over to voice their support. "Alex, I think you made some really valid points." "Yeah, why should we be obligated to do this? I'm done being a free tutor." Teacher Wang's face darkened at the scene. She clearly hadn't expected my words to resonate with so many classmates. At this moment, I knew I had won. Not just a petty argument, but the chance to change my destiny. In this lifetime, I'll live for myself. No one will ever take advantage of me again. When I got back to the dorm that evening, I noticed my roommates were acting differently toward me. Jesse said while organizing his desk, "Alex, what you said during the class meeting today really made sense." Another roommate, Luca, nodded in agreement. "Yeah, I always thought tutoring everyone, every day, must be exhausting for you. But I never knew how to bring it up." "We've all noticed it," said Blake, the third roommate. "You get swarmed by people after evening study sessions and end up doing your own homework way too late. Honestly, I would have cracked under that pressure long ago." My heart warmed at my roommate's words. "So, there are people who actually understand me. Thank you for your support," I said sincerely. "But it's not that I refuse to help others entirely. I just prefer mutual assistance rather than one-sided giving." Jesse said thoughtfully, "True, we roommates often discuss problems and help each other out, but that dynamic feels completely different from your previous situation. Ours is an equal exchange, while yours seemed more like a teacher giving free tutoring sessions." Luca chimed in, "Exactly. That's the vibe." Blake nodded. "And half the time, people asking for help act so entitled, like you owe them favors." I nodded back. "Spot on. That's the core issue. Real help should go both ways, not feel like some obligatory chore." Right then, the dorm door swung open. In walked a few guys from next door, Landon among them. "Alex, we need to talk," Landon said awkwardly. "What's up?" I asked, setting my book down. Landon glanced at the others before saying, "We think you've changed way too much lately. You weren't like this before." "Yeah, Alex, you used to be so great, always helping people. Now you've become so another classmate hesitated, unable to bring themselves to say selfish. I scoffed. "Did you come here to accuse me?" No. Landon waved his hands hastily. "We just thought since we're all classmates, we should help each other. You're so academically gifted. Giving us some pointers wouldn't be difficult for you, right?" "Yeah, it's just a small favor. And it's not like we're asking for free help. We'll return the favor whenever you need us." I nearly burst out laughing hearing those words. In my past life, they'd made similar promises, too. Yet by the time college entrance exams ended, not a single one had been kept. Need your help? I asked pointedly. What exactly could you possibly help me with? They exchanged awkward glances, momentarily speechless. Honestly, what could they possibly help me with academically? Their grades are worse than mine, and their knowledge level is inferior. 2. We could fetch water for you. Do your laundry. Landon stammered. I can handle fetching water. And laundry myself. I flatly refused. Besides, do you really think menial chores equate to the hours I spend explaining problems to you? This comparison left them utterly speechless. Sure, fetching water or doing laundry. Anyone can handle those chores, and they don't take much time. But tutoring someone requires intellectual effort, demanding significant time and energy. The two aren't even remotely comparable in value. Then, what do you suggest we do? Landon grew impatient. We're really struggling with math. And without your help, we're completely lost. Simple. I shrugged. Get a math teacher or hire an outside tutor. But the teachers are too busy to give us private tutoring every day. And private tutors outside school are way too expensive. We can't afford that. So, you just expect me to tutor you for free? My tone turned icy. Do you really think that's fair? The group fell silent again. Then my roommate, Jessie, couldn't hold back anymore. Seriously, you guys are way out of line. Alex doesn't owe you anything. Why should he help you for free? Exactly. Luka kaimdin. If you want better grades, put in the work yourselves. What's with this constant reliance on others? Blake didn't mince words. How's this any different from freeloading? Their roommates' accusations made the group flush with embarrassment. Landon still tried to argue. But classmates should help each other out. Helping is fine, but it shouldn't be one-sided exploitation. I cut him off. Landon, tell me this. How many times have I helped you since freshman year? Landon pondered. Lots. I can't remember the exact number. Then, how many times have you helped me? Landon froze, completely at a loss for words. Honestly, from freshman year till now, it's always been me helping him. He's never lifted a finger for me. See, this is reality. I sneered. All this talk about mutual support, but what's really happening? I'm the only one putting in effort while you all reap the Blake fits. Now that I'm done being your doormat, suddenly I'm changed. And selfish. So what exactly do you think we could help you with? Another classmate retorted defensively. That's just it. You can't help me at all. I stood up, locking eyes with them. If you've got nothing to offer, why should I keep helping you? Running a charity here. That remark hit them right where it hurts. Because it's the truth. When it comes to academics, they're genuinely no help to me. What I've been giving them is essentially one-sided charity. Except this kind of charity brings zero returns. And might actually cost me dearly. All right, time for you to leave. I show them the door. I won't keep bailing you out. If you actually care about improving your grades, put in the work yourselves. They exchanged awkward glances before slinking out of the dorm without another word. After they left, Jessie couldn't help remarking. Alex, now that you mention it, just occurred to me. What's that? Our mutual help has always been reciprocal. Like when you explain a math problem. I might analyze an English passage for you. Or if you lend me notes, I'll buy you lunch. Everyone gives. And gets something. But your situation was different. Luka kaimdin. You gave so much yet received almost nothing in return. That wasn't mutual support. It was outright exploitation. Blake nodded. Looking back now, those people really took advantage of you. Treating you like free tutoring labor. And acting so entitled about it. My roommate's words warmed my heart. At least someone understood my struggles. And stood by my decision. But Jessie suddenly changed tack. Won't Teacher Wong have something to say about this? What's she going to do? I shrugged. I didn't break any school rules. She's got nothing on me. But she's calling our parents tomorrow. Lucas said nervously. Let her. I said calmly. My folks aren't idiots. They'll back me up. I said this with absolute conviction. In my past life, though Teacher Wong had approached my parents, their stance remained clear. They supported my academic focus, but disapproved of me wasting time tutoring others. But back then, I cared too much about teachers, and classmates' opinions. Even with parental support, I couldn't follow through. This life is different. I've made up my mind. Nothing will stop me from fighting for my future. After the last class on the following afternoon, I was summoned to the office. Inside waited Mr. Wong, my parents, and the Dean of Academic Affairs. The setup looked intimidating, but I didn't feel the slightest bit nervous. "Alex, take a seat." The dean gestured toward the chair. As soon as I sat down, Mr. Wong started reporting my behavior to my parents. "Alex's parents, your son has been behaving poorly lately. He refuses to help classmates and made inappropriate remarks during our class meeting, seriously damaging class unity." My father frowned and asked, "What exactly happened?" Mr. Wong gave an exaggerated account, painting me as a selfish, uncooperative, problem student. After hearing Teacher Wong's words, my mother asked me, "Alex, is what the teacher said true?" "Mostly accurate." I nodded, but she didn't tell the whole story. Then I explained the entire situation in detail. While I obviously couldn't mention past life experiences, I could analyze the drawbacks and harm of this approach. That's why I refused to continue being a free tutor, to protect my own study time and academic performance. I concluded. After hearing me out, my father pondered for a moment before asking Teacher Wong, "Excuse me, Teacher Wong, does the school require top-performing students to tutor their peers?" "Well, it's more of an ethical obligation than a formal requirement." Teacher Wong replied awkwardly. "Ethical obligation?" My mother's tone turned sharp. "Teacher Wong, my son worked hard for his grades. What's unethical about that?" No, what I meant was Teacher Wong attempted to explain, but my father cut him off. "Mr. Wong, I believe my son did nothing wrong." My father said firmly, his top priority should be focusing on his own studies, not tutoring others. If other students need help, the school can arrange tutors, or parents can hire private teachers. Why should my son give away his time and energy for free? Exactly. My mother chimed in. We're paying for his education so he can improve his own grades, not to become someone else's teacher. Seeing how adamantly my parents supported me, Mr. Wong's expression darkened. The academic director interjected. "Alex's parents, I understand your perspective, but peer assistance is indeed a virtue. Virtue should be encouraged, not enforced." My father cut him off sharply. "And this so-called mutual help is completely one-sided. My son invests time and effort. What does he get in return? Nothing. Is that fair?" The dean was left speechless by the question. My mother went straight for the jugular. "Let me ask, if my son's grades suffer because he's constantly helping others, jeopardizing his college entrance exam, who takes responsibility? The school or these so-called help students?" That question hit the nail on the head. Indeed, if helping others jeopardizes my own future, no one will take responsibility for that. The office fell into silence. After a long pause, Teacher Wong protested reluctantly. "But this will disrupt the class dynamic." "Class dynamic?" My father scoffed. "What good is a classroom atmosphere that depends on exploiting a student's interests?" That remark completely left Teacher Wong speechless. In the end, this complaint concluded with Teacher Wong's defeat. As we were leaving, my father said to Teacher Wong, "Mr. Wong, I hope you'll focus your energy on teaching rather than figuring out how to exploit students. My son's job is to study, not to be free labor." After leaving the office, my father patted me on the shoulder and said, "So, you did the right thing. One shouldn't be too meek. You've got to learn to say no when necessary. Thank you for your support, Mom and Dad." I said sincerely, "Of course we'll support you." My mother said, "You're our son. Who else would we support? That Teacher Wong is clearly trying to take advantage of you." Dressing it up with pretty words, with my parents' unwavering support, my resolve grew stronger. In this lifetime, I'll dedicate all my time and energy to bettering myself. No one will ever take advantage of me again. Nothing can stand in the way of my pursuit of success. The next morning, I sensed something peculiar the moment I stepped into the classroom. My classmates' gazes carried complex emotions: curiosity, resentment, while some eyes sparkled with approval. Apparently, word's gotten around about Mr. Wong calling parents yesterday afternoon. I calmly walked to my seat, overhearing hushed whispers along the way. Heard Alex's parents backed him up, too. Left Mr. Wong speechless. Seriously, his parents don't discipline him. I think his parents have a point. Why should anyone tutor others for free? But if this continues, no one in our class will be willing to help others. So what? It's not like we're obligated to anyway. These discussions revealed the growing divide among classmates. My supporters became more resolute while opponents grew increasingly resentful. I settled into my seat and pulled out the materials for morning study. Today's recitation was an ancient poem, Sushies Nian Nu Gyao, Memories of the Past at Red Cliff. The mighty river flows eastward, sweeping away countless heroes through the ages. The exquisite verses rolled off my tongue, filling me with the heroic spirit of ancient times. In my past life, I particularly loved this poem, especially the line, "Life is but a dream. Let me pour libation to the river moon," which had moved me profoundly. Now reborn, reading these verses again evokes entirely different emotions. Life is indeed like a dream, but since I've been given a second chance, I'll make this dream extraordinary. Just as I was reciting, Clara in front turned around again. "Alex, I've been thinking all night, and you're absolutely right," she said softly. "It's true. Everyone should take responsibility for their own learning." I was surprised Clara would bring this up on her own. "Did you figure it out?" Clara nodded. "I used to think top students were obligated to help us, but last night I realized how selfish that was. We've been taking their help without ever considering how to give back." "I'm glad you understand," I said warmly, but Clara worried. "What does this mean for students like me who struggle academically?" "That's a very practical issue. It's simple. Just work harder," I replied bluntly. "Clara, your grades aren't actually bad. You just lack confidence and proper study methods. If you're serious about improving, I can give you some advice." Clara's eyes lit up. "What kind of advice?" "First, create a study schedule. Allocate your daily study time wisely across subjects. Don't just study aimlessly. Second, discover study methods that suit you best. Everyone's situation differs. Don't just copy others' approaches wholesale. Third, practice consistently. Mastering any subject requires substantial hands-on repetition. Fourth, reflect and summarize promptly after each exam. Analyze mistakes to prevent recurring errors." After hearing my advice, Clara nodded thoughtfully. "These suggestions are really practical." "Thank you." "You're welcome." I smiled. "Actually, these methods aren't complicated. The key is consistent implementation." Just then, the school bell rang. First period was Chinese class. Our teacher, Ms. Lee, was a passionate instructor in her 40s. Today's lesson was Lu Sun's The New Year's Sacrifice, a story I'd been quite familiar with in my past life. Ms. Lee wrote today's learning objectives on the blackboard before introducing the new lesson. "Class, today we'll study Mr. Lu Sun's masterpiece, The New Year's Sacrifice." This short story exposes feudal society's oppression of women through Xiangling's wife's tragic experiences. Before we begin, I'd like to ask you all, what is compassion? What constitutes genuine help? That question struck a chord with me. Ms. Lee continued, "In the novel, the people of Lu's Hen showed both sympathy and prejudice towards Xiangling's wife. While listening to her tragic story, they gossip behind her back. What does this attitude reveal?" Several students raised their hands, each analyzing the townspeople's complex psychology from different perspectives. Nodding in approval, Ms. Lee said, "Excellent analyses, but I want to emphasize this. True compassion isn't condescending charity, but equal understanding and respect. Genuine help isn't superiority-driven benevolence, but humanitarian assistance." Her pointed remark made many classmates instinctively glance in my direction. Ms. Lee seemed to notice something, and continued, "In real life, we often encounter similar situations. Some people use help as a pretext to flaunt their superiority, while others grow accustomed to receiving help without ever considering reciprocation. Both attitudes are wrong. True help should be mutual, equal, and come from the heart. It shouldn't carry any ulterior motives or become a burden." Hearing these words, I developed a favorable impression of Ms. Lee. Apparently, not all teachers are like Mr. Wang. At least Ms. Lee's values are sound. Midway through the lesson, Ms. Lee had us break into groups to discuss the root causes of Xiangling's wife's tragedy. I was assigned to a group with Tatum, Clara, and a few classmates who usually kept to themselves. During the discussion, Tatum suddenly remarked, Xiangling's wife's tragedy largely stemmed from her excessive reliance on others. She constantly sought sympathy and helped to change her fate, but never considered relying on her own efforts. This fresh perspective piqued the interest of other group members. You've got a point there, a classmate chimed in. If Xiangling's wife had been more self-reliant, she wouldn't have ended up like that. But wasn't it nearly impossible for women to achieve complete independence in that social context? Clara offered a different perspective. After some thought, I said, environment micros, but personal choices micro more. Even in harsh circumstances, some people manage to break through. What's crucial is having strong willpower and the right approach. Tatum just like us now. Tatum remarked pointedly, we can't always rely on others. We need to learn to take responsibility for ourselves. This remark resonated with everyone in the group. It seems my actions have influenced some classmates' perspectives. This is a positive change. After class, Ms. Lee stopped me. Alex, stay behind for a moment. I walked up to the podium, wondering what she was about to say. During the group discussion earlier, I heard your input. Ms. Lee said gently, I found your perspective quite insightful. Thank you, teacher, but I'd like to ask you something. Ms. Lee looked me in the eye. There have been quite a few rumors circulating about you in class recently. How do you feel about that? After a moment of reflection, I replied, Ms. Lee, I believe everyone should take responsibility for their own life. Helping others is virtuous, but it shouldn't become an obligation. I don't mind occasionally assisting classmates, but I refuse to be guilt-tripped into it. Ms. Lee nodded and said, I understand your perspective. Indeed, any assistance should be voluntary, not compulsory. Moreover, she continued, as students, your primary focus should be mastering your coursework to build a foundation for the future. If excessive help for others compromises your own studies, that would be putting the cart before the horse. Hearing Ms. Lee's words touched me deeply. Finally, there's a teacher who understands my situation. Thank you for understanding, I said sincerely. However, Ms. Lee changed her tone. While standing by your opinions, I hope you'll also pay attention to your approach. After all, you'll be sharing the same classroom for a year. Maintaining hostile relationships befits no one. I understand. Teacher, I'll be more mindful. All right, go ahead. Remember, you can always come to me if you run into any trouble. Stepping out of the office, I was in high spirits. Even though Mr. Wong didn't understand me, at least Ms. Lee had my back. And judging by today's events, more classmates were beginning to see where I was coming from. When I returned to the classroom, I found a note waiting on my seat. Upon opening it, I saw Clara's note. Dear Alex, thank you for your advice today. I've decided to create my own study plan starting today without relying on others' help. When I encounter difficult questions, I'll try solving them myself first, only asking teachers when truly stuck. I want to take responsibility for my future, just like you do. Clara, reading the note, I smiled knowingly. It seems my actions have genuinely made a positive impact. At least someone's learning to think independently and take ownership of their life. The rest of the day's classes went smoothly. A few classmates still approached me for help, but they didn't push after being turned down. Seems everyone's finally accepted the truth. Alex is done being a free tutor. During evening self-study, I focused on solving math practice problems. They were challenging college entrance exam simulations, but nothing I couldn't handle. With memories from my past life and 16 extra years of experience, my problem-solving approach became razor-sharp. I was working on problems when Tatum came over. Alex, I need to discuss something with you, he said in a hushed tone. What is it? I think we should form a study group, Tatum said with excitement gleaming in his eyes. Just a few of us top students getting together regularly to share insights and tackle tough problems. It'll help us push each other forward without distractions. That's a brilliant idea. Who's joining? I asked. I've already spoken with a few people. Clara, Micah, and Jade. They're all interested. We could set up weekly meetings to discuss study topics. Sounds good. I nodded. This kind of peer discussion is definitely more effective than one-sided tutoring. Absolutely. And we're all volunteering without any pressure. Tatum said excitedly. This way we can maintain our study schedules while Blake fighting from the exchange. This is truly a win-win solution. Then it's settled. Shall we have our first gathering this weekend? Sounds good. Let's meet in the library study room. And just like that, our study group was formed. This group was completely different from my previous free tutoring setup, built on mutual Blake fit and equality. Every member joined voluntarily, each contributing and gaining in equal measure. This is what truly healthy peer relationships look like. In this lifetime, I'm determined not only to secure a better future for myself, but also to help classmates who genuinely strive to improve. But the premise is that such assistance must be mutual and equitable, not unilateral exploitation. Our study group held its first meeting in the library discussion room over the weekend. Attendees included me, Tatum, Clara, Micah, Jade, and 2 other high-achieving classmates. This marks our study group's inaugural session. Tatum said as the founder leading the gathering. Let's begin by establishing some ground rules. First off, participation in our study group is completely voluntary. Anyone can opt out at any time. Secondly, all discussions within the group are equal. Every member has both the right and responsibility to contribute. Thirdly, our goal is mutual improvement, not one-sided assistance from any individual. Lastly, we meet weekly for 2-hour sessions primarily focused on tackling challenging academic problems across subjects. Everyone agreed to these rules. Let's start with math today, I suggested. Feel free to bring up any questions you're struggling with, and we'll discuss them together. Micah raised his hand and said, There's a solid geometry problem I can't figure out. Could you all help me analyze it? He wrote the problem on the whiteboard. It was about a triangular pyramid. At a glance, the solution flashed through my mind, but instead of giving the answer outright, I guided everyone through the thought process. The key to this problem lies in establishing the right coordinate system. How do you think we should set it up? What if we take a vertex on the base plane as the origin? Jade suggested tentatively. That works, but isn't the most efficient approach. I prompted. Let's brainstorm. Is there a simpler way to establish it? After about 10 minutes of discussion, we finally arrived at the optimal solution. This discussion-based learning approach worked remarkably well. Everyone actively participated in the thought process, gaining not just the answer, but also mastering the problem-solving methodology. Over the next hour or so, we tackled problems across multiple subjects, including physics, chemistry, and English. Throughout the session, each person made meaningful contributions. While I fielded most questions, others offered numerous valuable insights. What's more valuable is that this exchange goes both ways. When I struggled with an English grammar question, Jade gave me a crystal clear explanation. And when I was confused about a chemical reaction mechanism, Micah's analysis made everything click. This discussion was really productive. Tatum concluded at the end. I find this approach much more effective than our previous study methods. Absolutely. Clara agreed enthusiastically. I've learned so much more through this discussion than just passively listening to explanations. And there's no psychological pressure with this approach. Jade added, We're all communicating as equals. No one feels indebted to anyone else. I felt truly heartened by my classmates' feedback. Now, this is what a healthy learning environment looks like. Our study group caused quite a stir in class after returning to school. While some classmates expressed interest in joining, others voiced their dissatisfaction. Hey Alex, mind if I join your study group? Landon approached me proactively. Sure thing. I agreed without hesitation. But we've got ground rules. Everyone participates in discussions and contributes. You sure you're up for that? Landon paused blankly. What do you mean? It means you can't just listen. You've got to share your own insights. 2. During discussions, everyone needs to voice their perspectives. I explained. This request put Landon in a bit of a dilemma. His current skill level simply wasn't up to par to make meaningful contributions to the discussion. Maybe I should work on improving myself first and reapply later, he said awkwardly. Absolutely. Our group always welcomes members who are genuinely willing to put in the effort. I replied warmly. But I knew Landon's personality. He wasn't the type to push himself just to join a study group. He'd always relied on others to carry him through. Sure enough, a week passed without Landon mentioning the study group again. Instead, whispers of discontent started circulating in class. Alex's crew is forming cliques and freezing us out on purpose, exactly before anyone could ask him questions. But now only team members get that privilege. If this continues, the academic gap in our class will only widen. I couldn't care less about these comments because I know their reasoning is fundamentally flawed. We've never excluded anyone. Everyone is welcome to apply for our study group. The only condition is that you must be able to contribute, not just receive help. This expectation isn't unreasonable. It's actually a sign of respect for every member. Yet somehow, these rumors still reached Ms. Wang's ears. During Monday's class meeting, Ms. Wang launched into another one of her moral lectures. Some concerning behavior has emerged in our class lately, she said from the podium, her gaze lingering pointedly on our study group members. Where certain students form cliques that undermine class unity. Let me stress this. We're one class, and should stand united, helping each other. There's no place for exclusive circles, much less deliberately creating divisions. Hearing this, I couldn't help but rise to my feet. Teacher, I beg to differ. Teacher Wang's face darkened immediately. Alex, what are you trying to say now? Teacher, our study group isn't some exclusive clique. And we're not excluding anyone. I said calmly, our doors are open to everyone. Any classmate can apply to join. But we do have one requirement. I continued, every member must participate in discussions and contribute meaningfully. We don't accept freeloaders who just take without giving. Is that really too much to ask? I countered, don't we have the right to choose who we study with? Teacher Wang was left speechless by my question. Indeed, students have the right to choose their study partners, as long as it doesn't violate school rules. No one has any say in the matter. Moreover, I raised my voice slightly. You accuse us of undermining class unity. But let me ask, what is true unity? Equal treatment and mutual respect? Or some people exploiting others' hard work? That question hit the nail on the head. The classroom was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Everyone was waiting for Ms. Wang's response. But Ms. Wang couldn't answer because deep down, she knew I was telling the truth. The so-called mutual help back then was essentially an unequal exploitative relationship. Top students invested time and effort while struggling students received free tutoring. This wasn't solidarity at all, but disguised exploitation. Teacher, what I mean is, I continued, our study group represents true solidarity. We're equals, everyone contributes, and everyone fits. This is a healthy, sustainable dynamic. In contrast, that old model was toxic. It bred dependency in some while forcing others to shoulder unfair burdens. Scanning the classroom, I asked, which relationship would you prefer? Equal collaboration or unequal exploitation? This question got the students thinking. Soon enough, someone raised their hand to speak. I'm with Alex. Equal collaboration definitely beats one-sided assistance. Absolutely. I think study groups make more sense. 2. If it were me, I wouldn't want to take on that kind of unpaid obligation. Either. More classmates voiced their support. At this sight, Teacher Wang's face darkened considerably. She clearly hadn't expected me to receive so much support from classmates. Let's wrap up this discussion here. She abruptly changed the subject and move on to other class micers. But I knew the ripple effects of this conversation were far from over. The class meeting helped more students understand my decision and support my approach. Several classmates even approached me after class, asking to join our study group. After careful selection, we've welcomed 3 new members who are genuinely committed to learning and contributing to the group. As our study group grows, so does our influence. The classroom learning dynamic is shifting. More students are proactively solving problems rather than seeking immediate help. This transformation warms my heart because it proves my decision was right. By rejecting moral coercion and insisting on equal cooperation, I've not only safeguarded my own interests, but also improved the learning environment for the entire class. Of course, some classmates expressed dissatisfaction with these changes, accustomed to relying on others' help. They naturally feel uncomfortable suddenly having to put in their own effort. But that's not my problem. Everyone should take responsibility for their own choices. If they're willing to put in the effort, they're welcome to join our study group anytime. If they refuse to work hard, they'll have to face the consequences of falling behind. This is a harsh reality in this lifetime. I'll prove through my actions that only equal cooperation leads to genuine mutual progress. Such one-sided exploitative relationships are fundamentally unsustainable. October arrived swiftly, bringing the first monthly exams. This is the first official exam of senior year, and a crucial opportunity to assess over a month's worth of academic progress. For me, this exam holds special significance. It will validate whether my choices were correct. The classroom atmosphere grew increasingly tense during the week before the exam. Many classmates began experiencing anxiety, particularly those who typically relied on others for academic support. "Alex, could you please help us review math one last time? Just this once. We promise we won't bother you after the exam." Landon approached me with a few struggling classmates in tow. Their hopeful gazes left me completely unmoved. In my past life, I'd fallen for this one last time plea repeatedly, compromising again and again until it ruined me. "Sorry, I don't have time," I refused outright. "Besides, cramming won't help. You should have studied consistently instead of panicking right before exams." "But we really don't know how," Landon pleaded. "You could ask the teacher, check reference books, or discuss with classmates at your level." I said patiently, "There are many options, but I'm not one of them." With that, I turned and walked away. Their disappointed sighs followed me, but I didn't look back. In this lifetime, I'll never show weakness again. In contrast, our study group's preparations are progressing smoothly. We've created a detailed study plan with clearly assigned tasks for each member. Within the group, we motivate and support each other, fostering a productive learning environment. "What's our study group's goal for this monthly exam?" Tatum asked during a gathering. "I'm aiming for top 50 in our grade," Clara said, given her current level. It was challenging but achievable with effort. The others also shared their individual goals. When my turn came, I declared without hesitation, "Number 1 in our grade." This goal took everyone by surprise, though I've always ranked first in my class. Competing for the top spot in the entire grade is much tougher. "Alex, are you confident about this?" Tatum asked. "Absolutely." My reply left no room for doubt. With my past life's foundation, 16 years of life experience, and over a month of dedicated study, I'm quite confident about topping the class. The monthly exam arrived right on schedule. The first subject was Chinese, with moderately challenging questions. The moment I received the test paper, a wave of familiarity washed over me. I've seen this test in my past life. Back then, I spent most of my time explaining problems to others instead of solidifying my own understanding, which led to mediocre results. But this time is different. After over a month of focused review, I've gained a much deeper grasp of the high school Chinese curriculum. What's more, with 16 additional years of life experience, my ability to comprehend literary works has improved dramatically. The essay topic is about perseverance versus compromise. This prompt was practically made for me. Titled "No Compromises, Stay True to Yourself," I wrote a heartfelt essay drawing from my recent experiences. In the piece, I argued this perspective. True perseverance isn't stubbornness, but rejecting distractions after setting clear goals. Real compromise isn't conformity, but making reasoned choices at critical moments. I poured my heart into this essay because it truly reflects my innermost thoughts. I felt extremely satisfied after finishing the Chinese language exam. The subsequent exams in math, English, and science subjects all went smoothly. I performed up to my potential in every subject, even exceeding expectations in some, especially in math. The final challenge problem was a complex function question. In my past life, I got stuck on this one and only scored half the points. But this time, I quickly grasped the solution approach and solved it completely. Throughout the entire exam, I maintained remarkable composure, not a trace of anxiety or nervousness. It felt like working through routine practice problems. This shift in mindset largely stems from thorough preparation over the past month. When you truly master the knowledge, and grasped the concepts. Exams stopped being intimidating. Students reacted differently after the exam concluded. Study group members generally felt positive, with most being satisfied with their performance. I think I did pretty well on this exam, Tatum said excitedly. Yeah, especially in math. I actually solved that final challenge problem. Clara replied cheerfully, but some classmates looked crestfallen. This test was way too hard. I couldn't answer so many questions. I didn't have time to solve the last 2 major math problems. The English reading comprehension was completely incomprehensible. Hearing these complaints, I felt absolutely no sympathy. Opportunities are equal. Everyone gets the same study time. Some choose to study diligently, while others rely on shortcuts. When put to the test, the difference becomes clear. 3 days later, the exam results were posted. The moment I saw my transcript, overwhelming satisfaction washed over me. Chinese, 135 math, 148 English, 142 science, 287 total, 712, ranked first in grade. What's more, these scores exceeded my expectations, especially math. Losing just 2 points means it's practically perfect. What makes me even happier is that all other study group members showed significant improvement, too. Tatum ranked 8th in his grade, Clara made it into the top 30, and everyone else met their individual goals. In contrast, students who habitually relied on others' help mostly performed below expectations. Landon only ranked 156th in his grade, which was worse than his usual performance. Class President Sienna ranked 15th in her grade, but this marked a noticeable drop compared to her previous academic standing. The classroom had this weird tension hanging in the air when grades were posted. Some were overjoyed, while others looked crushed. Alex, congrats on topping the class. Tatum was the first to come congratulate me. Thanks. You did great, too. 8th place is seriously impressive. I responded genuinely. Soon, all the other classmates gathered around. Alex is amazing, scoring 712 points. Almost perfect in math. That's insane. With these scores during Gaokao, you could get into Tsinghua or Peking University easily. I remained humble in response to my classmates' compliments, but deep down, I was absolutely determined. This time, I will get into the best university. However, there were also some discordant voices. If only Alex had helped us review, we wouldn't have done so poorly. Exactly. We used to get decent results when he was helping us. He's actually screwed us over. Hearing these words, I couldn't help but sneer. Even now, they refuse to acknowledge their own shortcomings, and instead shift the blame onto me. That kind of mindset dooms them to mediocrity. Just then, Ms. Wang entered the classroom. Her expression was complex, a mix of approval for my grades and concern about the class's overall performance. Class, the monthly exam results are in, she announced from the podium. Overall, our class has both achievements and shortcomings. The good news is, our class produced the top student in the grade, something we can all take pride in. She glanced at me with a complex mix of emotions flashing in her eyes. However, some classmates' grades have slipped, which calls for serious reflection. As she spoke, her gaze swept across the students with poorer academic performance. I hope top-performing students can set an example and help their struggling classmates improve together. This was clearly aimed at me, but I couldn't care less. The results speak for themselves. I made the right choice by focusing on my own studies and refusing to be guilt-tripped. I not only didn't harm others, but actually achieved better results. In contrast, classmates who relied heavily on others saw their grades drop after losing free assistance. But that's not my responsibility. It's the natural consequence of their own choices. After class, Ms. Wang called me into her office. Alex, you did exceptionally well on this test. Her tone carried mixed emotions. Thank you, ma'am. However, she shifted gears. Have you considered how helping your classmates could improve the entire class's performance? I looked her straight in the eye. Teacher, I have a question for you. If helping others affects my studies and costs me the top spot in this exam, would you take responsibility for that? Ms. Wang froze. Can you guarantee my admission to a top university? Will you be accountable for my future? I pressed further. Ms. Wang had no answer. If you can't take responsibility for my future, why should I follow your advice? My tone remained calm, yet carried undeniable conviction. Professor, it's not that I'm unwilling to help classmates. Our study group proves otherwise. But I refuse one-sided exploitation and moral coercion. There are plenty of ways to improve grades if others truly want to. They could study harder, consult teachers, or join our study group, provided they're willing to contribute equally. With these words, I turned and left the office. Teacher Wang's sigh echoed behind me. I knew exactly what she was thinking. She wanted me to sacrifice my own interests to help other students, just so she could gain more prestige at school. But not this time. I won't fall for that trick again. I'm dedicating all my time and energy to bettering myself. The midterm results have proven this path is the right one. If I keep pushing forward, getting into Tsinghua or Peking University won't just be a dream. After the exam scores were released, my social standing at school shifted in subtle ways. Teachers and classmates alike praised my performance, making me the talk of the school. On the other hand, some people's attitudes toward me have grown more complicated, especially those classmates whose grades slipped. Their gazes held indescribable emotions when they looked at me. There was admiration, envy, and resentment mixed together. Alex is practically the school's golden boy now, my roommate Jesse remarked while organizing his desk. Heard even the principal gave you personal praise. That's true, I replied calmly. Indeed, the principal singled me out for praise during yesterday's school assembly, calling me the pride of the institution, and urging other students to follow my example. While this recognition satisfies me, I haven't let it go to my head, because I know this is just the beginning. The real challenges lie ahead. But, Lucas said with concern, I've heard some classmates have strong opinions about you. They think you're too selfish. Let them talk. I shrugged it off. Successful people always attract envy. It might sound arrogant, but it's the truth. In this world, many people can't stand others being better than themselves. They never reflect on their own shortcomings, but instead resent those who succeed. That may be true, but you'd better be careful. Blake warned. I've got a bad feeling about the class atmosphere. I nodded to show I'd keep that in mind. Indeed, the classroom vibe has been quite tense lately. A clear divide emerged between classmates who supported me and those who opposed me. This division was evident in everyday interactions. For instance, the two groups rarely sat together during meals. When discussing issues, they often held opposing views, even on trivial micers. Disagreements arise between both sides. This atmosphere reminds me of some past life experiences. Back then, I didn't understand that collective groups always involve various conflicting interests. Some conflicts can be reconciled, while others remain irreconcilable. The conflict between me and those classmates who habitually rely on others falls into the latter category. Because our fundamental stances differ, I believe everyone should take responsibility for themselves, while they expect to keep receiving free assistance. This kind of disagreement can't be resolved through compromise. On Wednesday afternoon, an incident finally brought this conflict to light. During that day's physics class, the teacher explained a highly complex electromagnetism problem. The question covered multiple concepts and had rather intricate solving steps. Most students were completely lost. After class, several students gathered around the physics teacher, hoping for another explanation. But the teacher had other microers to attend to and suggested they discuss it among themselves. Alex, could you walk us through that problem again? Landon approached me with a few classmates. Sorry, I don't have time. I declined as usual, but we genuinely don't know how. They pleaded further. Just then, Tatum approached. You could join our study group. We regularly discuss these kinds of issues. What are the requirements to join? Someone asked. It's simple, Tatum explained. You need to actively participate in discussions and contribute meaningfully. We don't accept passive listeners. Their expressions darkened at the request. What's that supposed to mean? We're not good enough. Is that it? Landon's tone turned sharp. It's not about being good enough, I explained patiently. It's a micro of principle. Our group thrives on equal participation. Everyone must contribute. Equal participation? Landon scoffed. When you top students cluster together, how are we supposed to keep up? Sure thing. Clara walked over. When I first joined the group, my grades weren't great either. But I studied hard and really applied myself. Now I can actively contribute to discussions. That's different, Landon said impatiently. You girls naturally grasp things faster. We guys just don't have the brains to meet your standards. That excuse made me laugh despite myself. Landon, do you really think you're less intelligent than me? Of course. You're so clever. Then why were our grades nearly identical freshman year? I call this bluff directly. It all boils down to how hard you work. This left Landon speechless. Truth be told, his academic performance wasn't bad at all when we first entered high school. As the coursework grew more challenging, he increasingly relied on others' help while avoiding deeper independent thinking. Over time, his grades inevitably declined. In conclusion, I summarized, our study group welcomes everyone, provided you're committed to improving yourself rather than waiting for others to carry you. With that, I turned and walked away. Landon's furious voice came from behind. Alex, don't push your luck. Think you're hot stuff just because of your grades. I ignored this pathetic outburst, but I knew this wasn't over. Sure enough, during evening study hall, a much bigger confrontation erupted. Shortly after evening study began, Landon and a few classmates approached my desk. Alex, we need to talk, Landon said with unmistakable hostility in his voice. What's this about? I kept my head down, continuing to work on my problems. We think you're out of line. Landon cut straight to the chase. Your behavior is going to screw over the whole class. This sentence made me put down my pen. I looked up coldly and asked, how exactly did I sabotage the whole class? Your refusal to help classmates caused our grades to drop. Isn't that harming the class? Another student retorted angrily. Your grades dropped because I didn't help you. I couldn't help laughing. Tell me, what were your grades before I ever helped you? The question left them momentarily speechless. The truth is, their grades were never good to begin with. My assistance merely kept them at a decent level without actually improving their abilities. Now, without my help, their grades naturally reverted to their original state. That still doesn't make what you did right. Landon argued stubbornly. Classmates should help each other out. Mutual help. I stood up. How exactly do you plan to help me? The question left them speechless once again. Their stunned silence drew the attention of other students in the classroom. Soon, the entire classroom fell silent, with everyone focused on this heated debate. Let me ask you one more time. My voice remained calm, yet carried undeniable authority. How exactly do you plan to help me academically? In daily life, what can you actually offer? After a long pause, Landon reluctantly muttered, We could help with other things, like fetching water or doing laundry. Fetching water? Laundry? I scoffed. Do you seriously think these chores equate to the hours I've spent explaining concepts to you? Besides, I continued, I'm perfectly capable of handling my own chores. What I need is academic exchange and discussion. Can you even provide that? They were completely speechless when confronted with my questions. Because that's the harsh truth. They genuinely couldn't offer me any meaningful learning support. So, this was never mutual assistance, just pure exploitation. My tone turned sharp. You demand my time, energy, and knowledge. But what do I get in return? Absolutely nothing. Is this relationship fair? Can it possibly last? The classroom fell completely silent. Many students were pondering my words. More importantly, I continued, have you ever considered that if I devoted all my time to helping you, my own grades suffered, and I ultimately failed to get into my dream university? Would you take responsibility for my failure? Would you surrender your admission letters to me? Would you continue supporting me throughout your future lives? These questions pierced their hearts like sharp blades. The answer was obvious. No one would take responsibility for my failures. Nor would anyone continue to support me after success. Then why should I sacrifice my future for you? My voice rose. Is this rational thinking or foolish self-sacrifice? Landon's face flushed crimson before he finally spat out. You're so selfish. Selfish? I chuckled. Then tell me, what do you call wanting to reap the benefits of my labor without offering anything in return? That remark hit the nail right on the head. Exactly. Who's truly being selfish here? The one refusing to be exploited for free? Or those expecting something for nothing? The answer speaks for itself. Let me make this perfectly clear. I scan the classroom. I've never been against mutual help. Our study group proves that. But I absolutely refuse to tolerate one-sided exploitation and emotional blackmail. Everyone should take responsibility for their own life. If you want good grades, you need to put in the work. There are no free lunches in this world, nor is help something anyone's entitled to. If you think I'm selfish, then let me be selfish to the core. At least the selfish person topped the grade. Well, how did you selfless folks fare? That final remark completely settled the debate, because facts speak louder than words. No matter what labels they try to pin on me, one truth remains unchanged. My choice was right, and my results speak for themselves. Landon and his crew slunk back to their seats in defeat. The other students in the classroom also seemed lost in thought. The impact of this debate far exceeded what I'd imagined. From that day onward, no one in class asked me for free tutoring again. More importantly, an increasing number of classmates began reevaluating their approach to studying. Some students took initiative in their studies, while others joined study groups. The entire class began developing a more positive learning atmosphere. This made me realize that sometimes, speaking the truth courageously holds more value than compromising principles in this lifetime. I'm determined not only to secure a better future for myself, but also to inspire those around me through my actions, guiding them toward making sound choices. But the condition is that such influence must be built on equality and respect, not on sacrifice and exploitation.